Welcome to my channel, where your adventure into the future starts right now. Step into a vibrant universe filled with groundbreaking technology, breathtaking alien landscapes, and exhilarating sci-fi narratives that challenge your imagination. From daring explorations of distant galaxies to haunting journeys through dystopian societies, we uncover the most captivating stories and innovative ideas that will shape the world of tomorrow. Subscribe today and join us on an incredible intergalactic voyage that promises to inspire and thrill. In the grand scheme of the universe, stars were born, lived, and died as a matter of course. It was the natural order of things. Planets formed and drifted in orbits around them, civilizations rose and fell, and time passed in its relentless, unchanging cycle. But even in the unrelenting march of time, there were moments when something extraordinary happened, something that disrupted the natural course of events and reminded every living thing of the fragile beauty of existence. This was one of those moments. Far in the distant reaches of the galaxy, there existed a solar system orbiting a star known to the inhabitants of nearby worlds as Ral Tor. It was a system like countless others, populated by planets that teemed with life, planets of varying species and varying levels of technological sophistication. But what made Ral Tor unique was a discovery that would set in motion a chain of events that would forever alter the course of not only its system, but the entire galaxy. Ral Tor, once a peaceful and prosperous system, was on the brink of annihilation. For millennia, the civilizations living around the star had observed it, studied it, and made peace with the fact that it would, eventually, reach the end of its natural life. Stars like Ral Tor did not last forever. They followed a cycle, first burning bright with the intensity of their fusion reactions, then slowly exhausting their nuclear fuel, expanding into red giants before eventually collapsing in on themselves in a cataclysmic supernova. But that was still a far-off event, something distant in the future, something that could be observed from afar but was of no immediate concern. Or so it was believed. The first signs that something was wrong came when Ral Tor began to exhibit strange fluctuations in its energy output. The intensity of the light it emitted began to pulse erratically, growing brighter and dimmer in patterns that no one had ever observed before. The scientists of the nearby planets were puzzled. It was not supposed to happen this way. Supernovae were predictable, yes, but they happened slowly, on a timeline that spanned thousands, even millions of years. What was happening to Ral Tor, however, was different. It wasn't just aging, it was collapsing in on itself at an accelerated rate, rapidly losing its stability. Something had caused the star to begin this process much sooner than expected, and its timeline was now a matter of mere decades rather than millennia. As the situation worsened, the leaders of the surrounding planets convened in an emergency summit to discuss the dire consequences of the star's impending collapse. The death of Ral Tor would result in the destruction of its entire solar system, including the planets orbiting it. And it was not just a matter of physical destruction, it was a matter of the imminent release of energy so powerful, so concentrated, that it would wipe out everything in its path, leaving nothing but a blackened void where once there had been thriving worlds. The debate among the leaders was heated and contentious. There were those who believed that there was no way to stop the collapse of Ral Tor. They saw it as a natural event, an unavoidable outcome in the life cycle of stars. The best they could do, they argued, was to evaluate as many of their people as possible and relocate them to safer parts of the galaxy, away from the impending blast zone. Others, however, believed that there must be a way to prevent or at least delay the supernova, a way to stop Ral Tor from prematurely reaching its final, destructive phase. Amid this chaos, a representative from Earth, a human named Asha Novak, stood up to speak. At first, the other delegates from alien species looked at her with bemused interest. Humans were still regarded by many of the older civilizations as a young, relatively unimportant species, resourceful, yes, but still new to the galactic stage. Asha, however, was no stranger to situations that required both diplomacy and creative problem-solving. She had spent much of her life studying human history, philosophy, and culture, and there was one concept that had always fascinated her, the concept of sacrifice. Sacrifice, in human culture, had always been an integral part of their identity. From the selfless acts of soldiers who gave their lives in battle to the ancient mythologies of gods and heroes who died for a greater good, sacrifice was a concept that resonated deeply with humans. It was a notion tied to love, to duty, to the desire to protect others even at the cost of one's own life. It was not just about dying for a cause, it was about offering oneself, willingly, in service to something larger, something more significant than the self. Asha had been inspired by this concept ever since her youth, when she had learned of the ancient stories from Earth's history, stories of explorers who had ventured into the unknown and never returned, of scientists who had sacrificed their lives in pursuit of knowledge, of everyday individuals who had given up their futures to protect their families and communities. It was a part of what made humanity unique in the galaxy, this capacity for selflessness, this willingness to offer one's life not out of obligation, but out of a deep, unshakable belief in the value of others. Now, standing before the galaxy's leaders, Asha believed that this very concept could save Ral Tor and its solar system. If the star was indeed collapsing at an accelerated rate, the only way to stabilize it, perhaps to divert its trajectory toward a less destructive fate, was to introduce a tremendous amount of energy into the system, a process that could potentially stop or slow the collapse. There was a moment of silence as the assembly took in her words. She continued, speaking with a calm conviction that even the most skeptical of the leaders could not ignore. What if the star could be stabilized, she proposed, but at a cost? What if we could send a ship, a powerful energy source, directly into the heart of Ral Tor, into the star itself, and channel the energy back into its core? We could rechannel its energy flow, reverse the collapse, and slow the star's death. But to do this, we would need to send someone, a crew, directly into the core of the star. They would have to make the ultimate sacrifice, but the rest of us would be saved. The solar system would be spared, and future generations would live. The room was silent for a long moment. The idea was audacious. The energy required to stabilize the star was far beyond anything any civilization had ever attempted. And the risk involved was unimaginable. A ship would need to get close enough to the dying star to interact with its core, and the radiation levels in that part of the system would be so high that no known protective technology could ensure the crew's survival. It would be a one-way mission, a journey from which no one would return. It was, in every sense of the word, a sacrifice. But humanity's concept of sacrifice, rooted in centuries of cultural tradition, resonated with those who listened. The leaders of other species, too, were moved by Asha's words. They saw the truth in them, the stark beauty of the idea. It was not just about saving a planet or a system, it was about giving everything for the survival of others, about risking one's life for the greater good. In that moment, they understood the depth of what was being offered. Several hours later, a fleet was assembled, and a team of brave volunteers from across the galaxy was selected. These individuals, from various species, came together, bound by a singular purpose, to save their homes, their families, and their futures. At the head of this team stood Asha herself. Her decision was not one made lightly, but it was one she knew was necessary. Humanity, with its capacity for selflessness, had once again become the beacon of hope for the galaxy. The journey to Ral Tor was long and perilous. As they neared the dying star, the ship's systems began to malfunction under the strain of the intense gravitational forces. Radiation storms buffeted them from all sides, and the ship's shields began to buckle. Still, the crew pressed on, knowing that there was no turning back. They were entering the heart of the storm, and there would be no coming out of it alive. As they approached the core of Ral Tor, Asha and her crew activated the ship's experimental energy system. The ship, equipped with a powerful generator capable of harnessing and directing the star's energy, began to channel the energy directly into the core. It was a dangerous maneuver, one that had never been attempted before. But with every moment that passed, they could see the star's pulse begin to stabilize. The star, which had been on the verge of collapse, began to calm. It was working. Slowly, but surely, the deadly process that had been accelerating was being reversed. The star's core, once unstable and dangerous, began to radiate at a more predictable, controlled rate. The system was saved. The planets would survive. But as the ship completed its mission, its energy systems overloaded, and the crew, including Asha, perished in the heart of Ral Tor. Their sacrifice, however, was not in vain. The solar system had been saved. The light of Ral Tor would continue to shine for millennia to come. And in the hearts of the people who lived in the system, the idea of sacrifice, the willingness to give everything for others, was etched into the fabric of their culture. Asha's name would live on, not as a hero, but as a symbol of humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, the ability to sacrifice for the greater good. In that final, selfless act, humanity had saved not only a solar system but had reminded the galaxy of the power of love, duty, and the willingness to give one's life for something more than oneself. And so, the galaxy would continue to turn, the stars would continue to burn, and the legacy of those who sacrificed everything to save their world would be told for generations to come. The galaxy had learned from humanity's example that even in the face of certain death, the greatest act one could commit was to give all for the future of others.